The country that we know as India today has not been the same, be that in terms of its geographical territories, in terms of its political realm. Now, the Indian subcontinent during the ancient and medieval times has witnessed the growth and flourish of many empires and kingdoms in different parts. Now, many empires and kingdoms were founded by people who belonged to the royal or the ruling families, while some were also founded and established by people who did not belong to the ruling families. Now, most of these rulers committed their lives to annexing more and more territories, to gaining more power and prominence, to amassing more resources and wealth. Now, these empires and kingdoms flourished in several pockets of the subcontinent, and the subcontinent witnessed the growth, the evolution, the flourish and the decline of many such empires and kingdoms. In our lesson, we will introduce ourselves to one very huge empire that ruled over a great part of the Indian subcontinent, and this was the Gupta Empire. So, without wasting any time, let us now introduce ourselves to the great Gupta Empire. Now, hundreds of years ago, in distant lands of Europe, lived a man who was very powerful and courageous. He was a very strong military leader, which is why he was able to bring under his control several other powers. He went on to conquering different regions and making his own territory greater and larger in size. Now, he was admired, revered as well as feared as a very powerful military general. Now, will you be able to tell me which military general we are referring to in this regard? Here we are talking about the great French leader Napoleon Bonaparte. He ruled France from 1804 to 1814 CE. But I'm sure you are now questioning why we are suddenly talking about Napoleon Bonaparte in our lesson on the Gupta Empire. Well, let me tell you about that. When the Britishers began ruling India, they wanted to know this land better. Now here they got to know about a ruler who was as powerful as Napoleon Bonaparte. He had just as remarkable a military career. But which ruler are we talking about? It was the great Samudra Gupta. Samudra Gupta was referred to as the Napoleon of India. Do you know why? We will find that out. Having been introduced to Samudra Gupta, who was referred to as the Napoleon of India by the Britishers when they came to rule the subcontinent, we should now know better about the empire that Samudra Gupta belonged to. This now brings us to a discussion on the Gupta Empire. From mid to late 3rd century to around 543 CE, the Gupta Empire ruled over a huge portion of the Indian subcontinent. The extent of the Gupta Empire tells us about the sheer vastness and greatness of this empire. Now, here you can see that it ruled over a huge portion, if not the entire northern part of the Indian subcontinent. For this reason, the Gupta Empire managed to politically control and keep united the northern part of the subcontinent between this period. Now, whenever we talk about any empire, any kingdom that was founded in ancient and medieval times, we should begin our discussion with the very establishment of that kingdom or empire. So, in this regard, we should now focus on how this empire was established. Do you think it was as great as you see here from the first day itself? Let us now begin our discussion on the foundation of the Gupta Empire. A person by the name of Sri Gupta laid the foundation of the Gupta dynasty in and around a place called Pataliputra. Pataliputra is situated in the present-day Indian state of Bihar. It is now the place that's known as Patna. Around the 3rd century CE, the foundation of the Gupta Empire took place. So here you can see, initially the Gupta Empire was not as huge, as great as we saw just a while ago. So this was how the Gupta Empire was founded. Now it is imperative on our part to learn and trace how this Gupta Empire grew in size over time. Though Sri Gupta is credited to be the founder of the Gupta Empire, he did not make the Gupta Empire as vast and huge as we saw in the beginning of this lesson. Instead, it was his grandson who is considered to be the first greatest and most important ruler of the Gupta Empire. I am sure you now want to know the name of this grandson of Sri Gupta, who is considered to be the first most important ruler of the Gupta Empire. Well, it was Chandragupta I. Chandragupta I initiated the Gupta era, which began from circa 319 to 320 CE. So this can be considered the formal initiation of the Gupta Empire. Though the foundation of it was laid by Sri Gupta, it was Chandragupta I who became the first very important ruler of this empire. Now after becoming the king, Chandragupta I assumed the title of Maharaj Adhiraja. Now let me tell you certain things about Chandragupta I. Chandragupta I was a very brave and very courageous ruler. He managed to make the Gupta ruler greater in size. We learned how in and around Pataliputra the foundation of the Gupta Empire was laid by Sri Gupta. But Chandragupta I did not restrict himself to ruling only this small region, which is why he extended his empire. Now it was during his rule that Pataliputra became the capital of the Gupta Empire. This is because he received Pataliputra as a gift for marrying the Lichavi princess Kumaradevi. And after becoming the king, Chandragupta I assumed the title Maharaj Adhiraja, which means the great king of kings. So this explains how he established himself as a very powerful and prominent Gupta ruler. Now after Chandragupta I, it was his son Samudra Gupta who now came to the throne. Here on this map you can see the area conquered by Chandragupta I and the region conquered by Samudra Gupta. Now you can see Chandragupta I managed to annex these territories in the northern part of the Indian subcontinent. So this is much smaller in proportion if you compare this to the region that was conquered by Samudra Gupta. He conquered almost the entire Indian subcontinent, and for this reason he was known as the Napoleon of India, or he was seen as the Napoleon of India. He ruled from circa 335 to 375 CE. Now the fact that he ruled over such a huge empire definitely means that he was able to annex and conquer the several small kingdoms that were ruling in these places. Napoleon was a very great and powerful French leader. Now when he was ruling France, he was feared, and he managed to bring under his control various European powers. Likewise, Samudra Gupta also managed to bring under his control various empires and small powers that were ruling in several parts of the Indian subcontinent, and this explains the fact why the Britishers called him the Napoleon of India. Now, before proceeding with this lesson, let me ask you a question. Which Gupta ruler is also known as the Napoleon of India? Is it Chandragupta I, Samudra Gupta, or Sri Gupta? Well, the correct answer is Samudra Gupta. When the Britishers came to rule the Indian subcontinent and started knowing more about Indian history, they found Samudra Gupta's brilliant military career was very similar to that of Napoleon, which is why they called Samudra Gupta the Napoleon of India. Now, when we take into account how huge the Gupta Empire became under the rule of Samudra Gupta, we should definitely take into account his administrative policies. Because without proper implementation of new and very effective administrative policies, it would have been absolutely impossible for Samudra Gupta to annex and conquer so many regions and bring everything under the control of the Gupta Empire. So let us now focus on individual aspects of Samudra Gupta's administrative policies that pertain to the expansion of the Gupta Empire. Firstly, we should focus on the rulers of Aryavarta. The 9 rulers of Aryavarta ruled over this region. Now, Samudra Gupta, as great and powerful a ruler as he was, he went and fought and defeated all these 9 rulers of the Aryavarta, and he brought this region under his control. After that, we now move to the southern part of the Indian subcontinent. Now, during the rule of Chandragupta I, he did not expand his empire to the southern part of the Indian subcontinent, but Samudra Gupta was definitely not a ruler to keep himself restricted to only one part of the subcontinent. He was very ambitious. He wanted to expand and increase the territories of the Gupta Empire, which is why he made his entry into the southern part of the subcontinent. Here he defeated the 12 rulers of Dakshinapatha. Now here you can see some of the cities that belonged to the rulers of the Dakshinapatha. All these cities were conquered by Samudra Gupta. Now you have to keep one very important point in mind, because when we have to talk about the administrative policies of any ruler or Samudra Gupta in this regard, we have to take into account the seat or the center of power. The center of power is the capital city of any ruler. And the capital of the Gupta Empire was Pataliputra, which was located in the northern part of the Indian subcontinent. So Samudra Gupta was ruling from the northern part of the subcontinent, that is from Pataliputra. Now this was a time when telephone, different kinds of social media or various forms of communication had not come into being. So in order to deliver a message from one place to another, people had to travel in person. They had to deliver messages physically. Now it was very laborious and almost impossible after a point of time. As strategic and cunning as Samudra Gupta was, he knew that it would be absolutely impossible for him to conquer these rulers of Dakshinapatha by sitting at Pataliputra. So what did he do? After ruling and defeating the rulers of Dakshinapatha, he again let them rule. But what does this mean? After defeating them, why did he let them rule? He let them rule not without a condition. He now gave these rulers a very important and strategic condition. these rulers of Dakshinapatha who were conquered by Samudra Gupta lost their autonomy. Though they were made to rule, these rulers were now to remain subjugated to the rule of Samudra Gupta. They were also supposed to pay hefty sums as yearly tribute. So in a way, Samudra Gupta managed to influence and indirectly control this entire region and bring it under his control, though he did not directly control this region. So this explains how strategic and how wise a ruler Samudra Gupta was. Let us now come to the inner state, that is the region marked in pink in this map. Now the inner state comprised the states of Assam, Bengal, Nepal and several other small Ganas. Now the rulers of these places also were subordinate to Samudra Gupta's rule, and they now paid regular tributes to Samudra Gupta. In exchange of the tributes they paid to Samudra Gupta, they were allowed to enter and attend Samudra Gupta's court. Samudra Gupta was also giving them orders, and the rulers of this place that was known as the inner state were supposed to follow and abide by those rules. And finally we come to the outer state. Now the outer state was comprised by the Sakas, the Kushanas and the ruler of Sri Lanka. The Sakas ruled over this region, the Kushanas also ruled over this region, and here you can see Sri Lanka. Now the rulers of these regions were now impressed by the great and very remarkable military career of Samudra Gupta. They saw how under the rule of Samudra Gupta, the Gupta Empire was increasing in size, while at the same time they were also intimidated by Samudra Gupta. They were afraid of him, which is why they surrendered to Samudra Gupta's superiority on their own. So this outer state, that is this region marked in yellow, also came under the rule of the Gupta Empire during the rule of Samudra Gupta. Now the rulers of the outer state, along with surrendering to the power and the authority of Samudra Gupta, now started paying him a regular tribute as well as offering daughters in marriage. So this now explains how Samudra Gupta managed to annex and conquer so many territories and kingdoms in several parts of the subcontinent to make the Gupta Empire so vast and huge in size. So what we have to understand in this regard is that the extent of the Gupta Empire increased significantly under Samudra Gupta. Now this is a point that we have been discussing all along, because if you compare the region that was the Gupta Empire during the rule of Chandragupta the first with that which was under the rule of Samudra Gupta, you can see how the Gupta Empire increased in size. Earlier on, the Gupta Empire was restricted only to the northern part of the Indian subcontinent, but it was only during the rule of Samudra Gupta that it extended to the southern half as well. So this now brings us to an end of our discussion on the introduction to the Gupta Empire. In this lesson, we learned how the Gupta Empire was founded around the mid 3rd century CE by a person known as Sri Gupta. Though Sri Gupta was the founder of the Gupta Empire, it was Chandragupta the first who was the first most important ruler under this empire. Subsequently, we also talked about the remarkable military achievements of Samudra Gupta. Here we are to pose a question. How did Samudra Gupta manage to annex so many territories? because his seat was at Pataliputra and he managed to conquer so many different regions to make the Gupta Empire so large in size. In our subsequent lesson, we will try to find an answer to this question, as in how Samudra Gupta managed to increase and make the Gupta Empire greater in size. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon. You can also register for free at DeltaStep.com or download the DeltaStep app to learn one-to-one with our amazing teachers, or to get access to all our 5,000 plus amazing videos as per your school syllabus. Master each topic with our adaptive practice technology. Get million plus questions with step-by-step solutions and unlimited mock tests. Get all your doubts resolved instantly. Learn via games and win amazing prizes like PlayStations and iPads. So at DeltaStep, learning is not just fun and easy, it's rewarding too. So register for free now.